We're live. Just got dropped off. Flaw's already in there. I'm gonna set up my battery pack here so I don't run out of juice. All right.
I'm not asking your town of Charleston to give up tax revenue, because I know that's the way Charleston is what it is, how they take care of their streets, how they take care of their lights, how they do everything around town and fund police and fire. What this warrant article would be a zero-sum game. In other words, if somebody put a $20,000 worth of solar equipment on the roof, which allowed them to offset their entire utility bill, and maybe it creates enough power to sell some power back to the utility, then that locks in that business's utility rate for at least 25 years at what it is now. It allows them, once the equipment pays for itself, then that's money that they're able to put back into their business, into their employees, into what they do, and that money, as we all know, filters back into the community. And so in this situation, if, for example, right now I understand that Charlestown taxes are assessed as $500 a panel. So if a project put in 80 panels, that'd be a $40,000 value. That $40,000, what I'm asking is, let's say the property was already assessed at $200,000. The $240,000 would be added in, but then the town would grant them a $40,000 exemption. They wouldn't lose any taxes. That's the same amount, but the business would profit. And the town would profit. One of the things that solar does out in communities like this is, believe it or not, it actually benefits the utilities. Because when solar is producing the most power and putting power back onto the grid, is when the utility is at its peak rates, and they're spending extra money to try to service air conditioning and all the different things, and that's when you have brownouts and grid instability. And by putting the power back on the fringes of the grid, it stabilizes the grid throughout the state. And I attached the study when I submitted a letter to the Board of Selectmen. Actually, solar power since 2014, $1 billion. And so all I'm asking is that the selectmen choose to put the warrant article up to let the town vote on it, without me having to go out and get a petition and walk it through that way. I'm asking you guys to give the small businesses and the people that work in the community the opportunity to vote on it and adopt that tax exemption. I understood you might have some questions with me. Jessica said you guys had some questions.
Did you contact the person that had initially asked you to put, didn't you say that someone was going to put in some solar panels, and you wondered if they had?
Oh, yeah, we actually have talked to, the Baileys are wanting to put in a solar project, and Mr. Turner at the new project here at the Episcopal Church.
Okay.
And there's other businesses that have solar proposals that are considering it and are waiting to see what happens with this, because quite frankly, it offsets most of the value if their property value jumps up by $50,000-$60,000. Yes, ma'am.
There's some discussion about the wording of it.
Yeah, I do believe.
Okay.
Might be able to pass this on to Matt. No. do you believe that some of the verbiage needs to change, but generally, probably?
I can work with whomever I need to work with, and, I mean, this was a proposed warrant article.
Correct. I mean, I'll tell you, myself personally, I think it's correct. You know, I believe that we, yes, no, maybe.
Would you like, would the board like me to review this and give you all the recommendation on amendments to the language?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not gonna attempt to do that immediately here tonight. I can do that, get your feedback, and, correspond with, Mr. Proctor to find out if the language that I recommend for the town is, would also work for him.
Okay. But I personally, I'm all for it.
Thank you.
So there's time. We'll have an attorney look at it, and then we'll work with you on it.
Great.
And then we'll bring it up to a vote if we can get the wordage the way everybody needs it.
Once that is done, we'll put it on the warrant.
On the agenda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Let's see. You guys have anything else? The next is, Dave Richardson.
Charleston.
That's the capital where I'm from. I slipped.
Good evening. My name is Dave Richardson. I'm here with two other town residents. We just wanted to go over a couple of things with you. We put together a package of some information. It's real simple. You may want to pull out the first page, but the rest of the stuff, it's just for review down the road. I have two additional packages, one for Jeff and one for Jess. So we'll leave those there. All right, and then Joel Stoddard is going to say a few words.
Good evening. I just want to start with, it's not an attack on anyone in particular at all, or any big thing. Got that? Okay, good. So our group has considered the positive and negatives of amending our town government structure from a select board administrator to that of a select board of the town manager. A town manager would be vetted and hired by the select board to uphold the goals and direction of the town as it was laid out by the select board. He or she would have the authority and responsibility to handle questions and issues from the townspeople, non-residents, department heads, and employees of the school district without having to wait for bi-weekly complaints, thereby saving you guys, the select board members, from hosting weekly meeting times and any non-public sessions once a night. Town manager will allow for town concerns to be managed during regular workday hours, providing a smoothly working structure for all. Some of these benefits could include help reduce the select board's workload significantly, help reduce the number of meetings currently required by the select board. It can help to make the select board position more palatable for potential select board members in the future. Help reduce time spent by select board members at budget meetings and workshops. Help guide the department heads and employees. Would reduce select board involvement in personnel matters and fewer non-public sessions, helping to make select board meetings run smoothly. Not so much involvement in the day-to-day operation of the town and less time spent on town-related matters steady daily oversight to town operations. We ask yourself, March 2026.
What's,
We're trying to plan this out, and there would be no additional cost. Just be reallocation of money that is already spent.
from where?
You want me to speak to some, is it okay if I speak to some of the budget, things? So, certainly this position would be an additional position as well as require salary and benefits. It would be an employee of the town. Well, one of the big parts would be, is our thought is that, and again, all of this is a concept to being presented to you folks. It would be a group discussion. It would be, working with you folks closely on putting this all together. It's not anything that's set in stone, with input from you guys. So as far as the budgetary part, to help pay for it, what our thought is that to reduce the select boards right now, to reduce your salaries from, whatever your current salary is down to something that, whatever it turns out to be. Maybe it's $1,000 a year, something like that. I don't think that any of you are doing the job for the money. You're probably doing it because, you care about Charlestown and you want to do the job. So, and that's the way a lot of the area towns run as well. Springfield, I think, has 5 select board members, and they have a town manager. Chester, the same way, much smaller town, but they have 5 select board members and a town manager as well. And all of them, I want to say, and don't quote me, but they might, the board members may receive $500 or $1,000 or something like that. So that would be a big piece of it, possibly picking up half of a salary. And then, we always, every year, you look at the budgets, we do end up having surpluses, which is great, and it goes into the general fund, which I think some of that could be, directed towards this position. I know right now that any of the surplus does go out to help, abate the taxes as well, but, and then, just having a town manager hopefully will, maybe there'll be some things that can come up. They can streamline some things to make it more effective and be able to pull that out and so that's our thought process. Again, it's not cast in concrete, but and we all know, we've seen over the years, there's been some, like I said, excess, some over budgeting, if you will, that in the past, even with the rec director last year, there was a big question about, the position and the salary and the need. But this is in my mind, it's a different, completely different subject. It's an administrative thing. So we certainly would love to work with you guys. Certainly this whole idea won't work without your support, and that's why we're coming to you tonight to make you aware of the thought process. We for March to present to the voters, and we would very much like to work together as a group, as a team, and put this together. If you folks are in favor of it, and will work with us on it. So.
Right, well, what's the cost? Like, you can cut us down to 3 and say you can give 3 people $1,000. That's not, what do you think a ballpark figure for a town manager is going right now? In the state of the economy that it is, considering you use the town manager for Enfield, they lost their town manager last November. They just now hired one. So almost almost well over a year they went without a town manager. So the economy as it is today says that you struggle to find town managers to begin with. In the economy right now, we can't find workers for our highway department. So if we're gonna spend extra money, I would think that maybe we should spend it advertising for our highway department and our police department and get them up to par before we add another additional person onto the payroll.
Well, you wouldn't be adding additional people for the highway or adding additional money for the highway and the police department, because that money is already budgeted in.
I wasn't asking that, I'm saying, how do we fill the current positions we cannot fill, but yes, ask the voters to add an additional person of oversight of approximately $100,000 a year. Hampshire just hired one, it's an employee.
Right.
I mean, I have my note.
Well,
So some job-related expenses, some of them have car allowance, some of them have computer maintenance for the computer they bring home. Some of them have travel expenses.
so we included those not as as something that we had to follow. We just use those for reference. I mean, anybody can Google and go online and pull out a town manager job description, okay? But that's kind of, the only reason we included those, Kelly, is because, just to give some ideas on what other area towns, New Hampshire towns have done. Doesn't mean we have to follow them in any way.
Right.
And in our thought process, certainly, if the town of Claremont is much more involved than Charlestown.
16
maybe-
full-time managers in 71 years. Claremont has.
Yeah,
16.
I agree.
Their tenure averages about 4 years.
Yeah.
Claremont has bought out 2 contracts that have cost them an enormous amount of money. So,
Yeah, it isn't guaranteed. We're not suggesting that this would be a guaranteed thing, or it would be new. It's a new position. Charlestown hasn't gone through this before. Maybe we'd be breaking some new ground, but number one, it will help cut down on your workload, without a doubt. Because any of us who have been involved in the town and committees and things around know what you guys put in. And it's a lot. We all know that. And, that's time from families, that's time from home, that's time from work, whatever. So that's the idea. So we're open to suggestions. We absolutely are. We're open to working with you. We want to make this work. And we'd like you to have the same idea. And I would agree with you that, some town managers, their salaries are up in that range, without a doubt. Maybe we could do something a little bit less. We don't have to have a town manager with 25 years of experience that could go into Lebanon, New Hampshire, or Hanover, or Manchester, or something like that. Maybe we could do something with, slightly younger, less experienced. I'm not saying learn on the job, but
but there are pitfalls. I mean, let's be honest,
Sure.
Glasgow in June 25th of 2021 is now paying $250,000 in a severance package to a town manager that they couldn't get along with. So it can cost.
without a doubt.
My other question would be, well, you wouldn't pay me a severance if I decide to resign. The taxpayers wouldn't be on the hook for it if I decide to walk out tonight.
I suppose that's true, but,
Like if I decide to walk out and this board doesn't,
but the argument with the replacement of all the Claremont folks, if we had an issue with if you guys had found some fault with the town, you can still sue us, and you can still be on the hook for money.
So, in that, I think it was in 1983, there was a warrant article in Charlestown about the town administrator having to be from Charlestown. Because I love our town very, very much. However, we prefer to have people work in our town, that know our people. We're very strong about that. We're very passionate about that. I think we even said that, many people said that about Bill being on the select board when he was voted in, that he didn't have enough time in town. He wasn't from town. So where are we going to find a town manager from the town of Charlestown that's going to understand each and every single one of these residents, what they struggle with, and how they struggle with it every single day?
You're not.
So how am I gonna find, how are we gonna find a town manager that's gonna know what our fire department goes through? Or how about what Keith does every day?
Nobody's gonna walk in as learn the job. You know, there's a certain degree of, you walk around the town, you shake hands, you meet Keith, you know, you meet the fire department, you meet the ambulance folks, you meet the police chief, and you learn. You know, it's, and I know exactly what you're saying, but we're not gonna find somebody, I mean, unless all of a sudden somebody pops up out of town that is qualified for the position. Without a doubt, but it's not a new concept, you know, hiring an out-of-town manager.
This is my little tidbit. So the majority of the state of New Hampshire, all the towns, majority run select board with some sort of administrative assistant or administrator. I have lists and lists of all the towns. And the one that we are basically mirror is doing job is Hopkinton.
Okay.
And they don't have a town manager. So that being said, the select board acts as the executive, and the people of the town act as the legislature. You can change that, you put a town manager in there, the town manager becomes the executive, the select board becomes the legislature, the people become the advisory. So we just took the power away from them to a degree. It's just food for thought.
I think, can I respond to that?
Sure.
I think that if you look in the RSAs, what you'll notice is that there's no attempt, nor do the RSAs provide for the select board to give up all of their authority. The select board and you folks would still have the ultimate authority over the town manager and the town operations. Okay, so that's not a question. The town manager would be relieving some of your duties.
A superintendent.
Well, so, I mean, just, I know how many budget meetings you guys go to, right? Budget meetings, workshops, getting together with the department heads, doing all that. That's a position that, I mean, a job that a town manager would be doing a lot of the legwork on. They'd certainly be coming to you and the town, the voters, to approve it.
But we have a town administrator that does that.
No,
That we
well,
give at whatever board sits here, this board, the last board, the board before, gives that individual certain privileges and powers to act in their state if we are not elected.
What's the average population of a town that has a manager?
The average population is over
You
6,000.
said, you said most towns are run on a select board, as this one is.
Right.
What's the average town, I mean, the larger towns have a manager, correct? We're not a very high populated town,
No.
nor with the business, we're not that populated either.
Haverhill, New Hampshire, that's about 1,500 residents, and they have a town manager. So it really is, if It really isn't.
Where's the
Runs
benefit?
across the board.
Where's the benefit?
So can I respond to your administrative assistant? Now, from my time on the finance committee, I've always understood that you folks have met with, or the majority of you have met with the department heads to go over their budgets. Right? So, you may pass that along, your administrative assistant is there to, you know, make suggestions, plug the data into the budget, etc., answer questions. But you folks are the ones who have the ultimate authority and talking to the department heads and making the decision for, you know, whatever might be needed. So I just don't want any of you to feel like that is the intent to take this authority away from you.
I think it's about authority. I think it's about adding another layer have to go through when they should have, this town should have direct contact and be able to that it, sometimes you're a little bit. And this constant changing, it's changed it up again, address the issues